ठीक है
सर।
हाँ जी, हाँ नेक्स्ट करो। रिकमेंडेशन नहीं नहीं, वो उसमें नीचे वो आएंगे बहुत सारे कवर ववर वो सब, वो आगे कर दो। हाँ करो। हाँ हाँ नहीं नहीं, आगे कर दो।
The NDA BJP government has been more than economical with the truth when it comes to the Rafale deal. First and foremost, the Prime Minister and the Defence Minister have tried to hide behind a mythical confidentiality clause which does not even exist when it comes to the price of the aircraft. Number two, every laid down procedure in the government of India for procurement of defence platforms has been undermined, subverted to sign this highly irregular contract. However, what is extremely disturbing, and which is the subject of today's press conference, is the statement which the Honorable Defence Minister made yesterday. She said, and with your permission, I quote, "Deal did not happen during UPA. What else didn't happen during UPA was that between Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and Dassault, I can't pronounce it properly in French, so we'll do with Dassault, they could not agree on production terms. So HAL and Dassault Aviation could not get together." Doesn't that very clearly say who did not go together with HAL, under which government it did not happen? So that is the Honorable Defence Minister of India yesterday saying that Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, which is a defence public sector enterprise under the Ministry of Defence, did not get into a contract / an agreement with Dassault Aviation. First of all, it's unheard of that any minister trashes a public sector enterprise, especially under one's own superintendence, in such a highly irresponsible and a cavalier manner. That's why they say that there is a certain virtue to experience. However, what has happened today has really blown the Defence Minister's assertion out of the water. The Chief of Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, a gentleman who retired on the 1st of September 2018, who spent a lifetime in HAL, gave an interview to a newspaper which has been published today, and he has made certain extremely pertinent points that absolutely and totally demolish the entire case that the NDA BJP government from the Prime Minister downwards have been trying to build. And he has said that HAL and Dassault had signed the mutual work share contract and given it to government. Now, this is an extremely significant statement that the Chief Executive of Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, Mr. T. Savarna Raju, has said that HAL and Dassault had actually signed a work share contract, and that work share contract was available with the government. So the question which arises, the first question which arises is, did the Defence Minister of India intentionally try and mislead the people of India? Second, he has said that Hindustan Aeronautics Limited would have built Rafale had government closed the original contract of 126 MMRCA with Dassault. So he says that Hindustan Aeronautics Limited would have built those 108 aircraft had government gone ahead and concluded the negotiation. So therefore, this argument which has been given by the government that because HAL and Dassault could not come to an agreement, therefore the 126 MMRCA contract had to be scrapped. If you go by the version of the Chief Executive, and there's no reason to disbelieve him, he's a professional industrial manager, maybe an engineer, and he says that no, if the contract would have gone ahead, we would have built the 108 aircrafts, the MMRCA, the Rafale. He further says, when Hindustan Aeronautics Limited can build the 25-ton Sukhoi 30 from scratch, a fourth generation aircraft, the mainstay of the Indian Air Force, from raw material stage, what are we talking about? He further says that Hindustan Aeronautics Limited has maintained Mirage 2000 manufactured by Dassault Aviation now for the past 20 years. So, he says that the Sukhoi 30, which is the workhorse of the Indian Air Force, we are building it from scratch from the raw material stage. It's a fourth generation fighter aircraft, a 25-ton aircraft. We've been maintaining and upgrading the Mirage 2000 purchased by the government of India, if I remember correctly from the top of my head, for the first time way back in 1983. And he further goes on to say that Hindustan Aeronautics Limited would have given a guarantee to the government if it would have produced the aircraft. So this argument which has been made that Hindustan Aeronautics Limited does slipshod work, it does shoddy work, the customer is not happy with the end product of the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, the chief is saying, the former chief of HAL, said he would have given a guarantee if he would have been allowed to manufacture the aircraft. Then he further goes on to say that the life cycle cost of HAL produced jets would have been cheaper than the per piece cost of flyaway aircrafts which the current NDA BJP government decided to buy. And which was the entire reason that the MMRCA contract envisaged that two squadrons, one squadron of 18 aircraft would be purchased in a flyaway condition and 108 would be manufactured in India. And then, this is the real kneeler. He says that if the 126 MMRCA contract would have gone through, India would have been self-reliant. India would have been self-reliant insofar as the fighter aircraft platform is concerned. So what happened to Make in India? Make in India seems to have gone out of the window. And the final thing which he says, I was the leader of the technical team for 5 years. And everything with the salt had been sorted out. So, here is the former chief of the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, and out of those 5 years that he was the technical team leader, 52 months or more have been under the tenure of the current government, and he says that everything had been sorted out. Completely and absolutely demolishes the web of lies and insinuations which this government has been trying to construct, I may say very inefficiently, over the past 6 months. And even if you go on life cycle costs, or if you go on the man hours required to build an aircraft, the government had put out a note. You see, they don't have the courage to come and address a press conference, so they do this surreptitiously through putting out notes. So they had floated this note where they had tried to justify their cost. You know, some of you or some of your colleagues who come from the so-called North Korean / commando channels may have got it. In that, they've said, oh, the negotiations collapsed because the number of man hours which HAL would have spent on manufacturing those aircraft was actually double of what the French were doing. It does not require rocket science to figure out that labor costs in India are 1/4 of the labor costs in France. So even if twice the number of man hours were required, in actual terms, the cost would have been still less. So in the light of such a clear, unequivocal statement of facts by the former head of the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, who has challenged the government that if you have the conviction of courage, please put all the files in the public domain. And the files will speak for themselves. We demand the resignation of the Defence Minister. The Indian National Congress demands the resignation of the Defence Minister on the charge of misleading the people of India. After the disclosure which has been made today by the former head of the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, the Defence Minister has no moral authority and no moral right to continue even for a second. And we reiterate that this highly irregular contract a la Rafale must be investigated by a joint parliamentary committee which should be set up at the earliest. यहीं पे छोड़ दें कि इसको हिंदी मेरी फ्रेंच से भी कमजोर एनडीए बीजेपी गवर्नमेंट ने राफेल के ऊपर या राफेल को लेकर जो मिथ्या का मायाजाल बुनने की कोशिश की है, आज आज हिंदुस्तान एरोनॉटिक्स लिमिटेड के पूर्व अध्यक्ष ने उसके पर कच्चे उड़ा दिए। एनडीए भाजपा सरकार पिछले 6 महीने से